I found me a coat, it was the perfect fit. It gave me shelter from the winter storm. I pulled it tight around my weary frame, and now I know that I am safe and warm.
Hello everybody, it's John Neal here. You never know what you're going to get on this channel. Today I've got to talk about the Bahá'i Faith from my own personal point of view, the community here, and how I came to be a Bahá'i in 1986 in fact. Okay, why am I doing this? Somebody asked me, so here we go. I've actually found some lists here. I'll just give you a global view. There are Baha'is absolutely everywhere in the world. There's nowhere you can't go that you don't find Baha'is. Maybe the Antarctic, but in every continent and in virtually every country in the world. The spread of the Baha'i faith is equal to Christianity. Not in numbers, but in the spread. The Baha'is everywhere. And I've got a list here of the countries where most Baha'is live. It's quite interesting. There's over nearly 2 million Baha'is in India, and then there's 500,000 in the USA. Third in line is Kenya with 400,000, and then Vietnam. There are 388,000 Baha'is, and then the fifth one in this list is the Democratic Republic of the Congo with 282,000 Baha'is. They're just about to build a house of worship there as well. So I've got a list of 20 here, and Britain isn't on them because we're way down the list of numbers of people in the population who are Baha'is. So what I've done here is then pull out, because just you have to say what is that relative to the population of that country. And it so happens that India still is one of the highest ones with 13 Baha'is per 1,000 people. Secondly would be Kenya, which has got nearly 9 people per 1,000. Third would be Papua New Guinea, of all places. Fourth is Chad. These are the density of population who are Baha'is. Fifth is Venezuela, and sixth is Tanzania. So there's a lot of African countries and South American countries, and indeed Southeast Asia and the South Pacific. A lot of Baha'is down there. I could talk about the global view of the Baha'is for a long time. It's quite interesting. I'll say this much though, that wherever you go in the world, the Baha'is are the Baha'is. There's no sort of denomination of Baha'is. You don't get one sort or another sort. I mean, there is a very small minority who call themselves Orthodox Baha'is, but they are very, very small in number, and they've always been around right from the time of Baha'u'llah. There are people who have tried to split away, but it was really never ever been successful. So there is basically only one Baha'i faith in the world. And when we're talking about unity all the time, what if we're not unified as Baha'is? What can we do? It means there's a huge diversity of cultures within the Baha'i faith. The writings have been translated into 1,000 different languages, and there are 12,000 different cultural groups as well. So, how about my little corner of the woods here, Nuneaton? Well, majority of the people who are Baha'is here, and there's only about 24 of us, about 20 or so Baha'is. We have previously got up to a point where we couldn't fit everybody in our house, and we had to hire a hall. But at the minute we can manage, not that we're doing so because it's locked down, we can't travel and visit each other, which is a pity. Majority are Iranian, largely after the Iranian Revolution in 1979. Many Baha'is were forced out of the country, but some have come at other times from that. And many, I have to say, have come with remarkable circumstances. They come in their teenage years just to the West, almost on their own, to study. And we've also got a range of other people as well. We've had one gentleman who's Slovakian, a lady who's just left, who's gone back to Swaziland. We had a French couple. We've got a lady now who's very interested, who's Italian. There's a Dutch gentleman and his Slovakian wife who live not far away. Who else was an Austrian lady who lives elsewhere now. And with the ethnic minority of us Englishmen and my wife, there's a couple of 3, 4 of us who are English. So when we all meet together, there's quite a range of different types of people as well. Okay, so that's really the nuts and bolts of who we are. The next question asked was, so what do we do? Well, strictly as the Baha'i community, what we do is that we worship every 19 days. I'll go into that another time. We have 19 months in the year. And then 4 or 5 days that we put into the time just before the new year. And the new year for the Baha'is, the calendar starts on the 21st of March, which in the Northern Hemisphere is the spring equinox, of course. And we also do various activities together. Currently we're getting together on Zoom and studying some of the study books that we've got. But the writings, the Baha'i writings, are considerable, and we spend quite a lot of time going through them and studying them and talking about them. We don't have any clergy, you see, so the reading of the writings is down to us, and we are certainly guided through some ways of studying the writings, but I'll do that till the day I die and not get to the bottom of what all the Baha'i writings are all about. Now, I have quoted some of them to you before now. And there is a book, there's a number of books actually. People ask, is there a book like the Bible for the Christians? We have a number of books that were revealed by Baha'u'llah and the Bab, and indeed Abdu'l-Baha, which we see as being holy books. Here is a Baha'i prayer book. The prayers revealed by either the Bab, Baha'u'llah or Abdu'l-Baha. Departed, evening, forgiveness, healing, and so on. This book is the gleanings of the writings of Baha'u'llah. It's a super book, this. It goes right through all sorts of issues to do with the day that we're in, the importance of the soul and our journey towards God. Such a magnificent book, this. If anything, this is one of the main books that we have. This is a beautiful little book, The Hidden Words. Just a short piece on each of these. Work thou to speed through the immensity of space and traverse the expanse of heaven, yet thou wilt find no rest save in submission to our command and humbleness before our face. Absolutely beautiful, beautiful little pieces. Some more prayers and meditations, a fuller book really. Again, this revealed by Baha'u'llah. And all these writings, well, it's a huge task to translate them from the original Arabic or Farsi, Iranian language, by Shoghi Effendi. Kitab-i-Ikan, the Book of Certitude, is another important book revealed by Baha'u'llah. And the Kabi Akdas is the Book of Laws, the most holy book, it says. Can you see that? Yeah. And this is very interesting. This is Shoghi Effendi's summary of it. This is the book itself, and there's a number of notes at the back. Very important book for Baha'is, this one. And here's just one of the many books on various different subjects relating to Baha'i writings and how it applies to this subject, in this case conservation. And then our activities outside of that in the community, we've always tried to serve the community as best we can. There's only a very small number of us. One thing we've done is to engage in multi-faith activities. In Nuneaton here we have a mosque, 2 gurdwaras, a Hindu centre, Christian churches of various sorts, Catholic, Church of England, Baptists and so on, and we try and bring them together. We had a very successful, at some point, a successful walk of faith, as we called it, which was to walk simply in the middle of town from the park where there was a a tree that the Baha'is had planted. So that was our point to start with. Then we walked to the mosque and then the Hindu centre and to the church and so on. And we did that on a Saturday in June. And that was pretty successful and brought a lot of people together. It was good fun. And then we would also engage with people, sometimes down on the market, and just have a chat with people who were interested in religious and spiritual things, really. And we will also set up devotional sessions, prayer sessions, meditation sessions, and invite people along to those, people who are not Baha'is. And I think they find those quite interesting and useful as well. We also have organised children's classes before now, and in the past we had Sunday schools, which I was the principal of one once, and the children would go along to those, and that was good fun. Because the education of children, particularly a spiritual education, and I don't mean indoctrination, I mean raising their awareness of the virtues in life, let's put it that way, are pretty important. Then occasionally we do some service projects. We play music to some folk in some old people's homes and just generally try as best we can to serve the community. I mean, even the litter picking I do is something to do with just helping the community out and making it a better place, really. Right, the next question is, how and why did I become a Baha'i? Well, fortunately both my wife and I became Baha'is at the same time. Back in 1986. Our children were sort of 5 and 6 at the time, and I suppose when you have children it gives you another perspective on life as well. Personally, even before that, when I was in my 20s, I would discuss religious matters with various people, and one issue that I had was that when I spoke to, let's say, Christians, wonderful as that was, I grew up loving the stories about Jesus because they were very much a part of our school life. You'd hear all about those, and I really did enjoy them. But when I talked to Christians directly, they insisted that they were right and other people, virtually everybody else, was wrong, and that if you didn't believe in Jesus, you were going to hell. I thought, hold on a minute. What about all the Buddhists in the world? What about all the Muslims in the world? What about all the Jews in the world? And so on. Where do they fit into this God's plan? Are they all suddenly going to hell because they didn't believe in Jesus? And I was never happy with that. Right, with no explanation, I just could not see that was a good thing to think. And since I became a Baha'i, I realised that attitude is really a misinterpretation of what Jesus meant. So I was more interested in this, and this idea of different religious groups all going to the same point. In fact, I have a diary, and I drew a picture of a mountain with sort of God at the top and lots of paths leading up to it. And I think that was an interesting, I made that entry in my diary, I think when I was in my late teens. So it was always there to be a part of it. By the way, my parents were certainly not religious at all. In fact, my dad and my mum were strictly atheist, my dad in particular. So for me to strike out with these thoughts was quite unusual. So when I was in my 30s, both my wife and I, Margaret, we had our kids, we were studying, in fact at school I was teaching religious education among all the other subjects that I taught. I taught in the primary school, so I taught 11 subjects anyway. But there was a growing interest in the 80s of interfaith and intercultural work, because there were certain problems in various cities which didn't address this. So that was part of was in the atmosphere at the time. And we started to read a few books about spiritual journeys, if you like, in some ways seeking some religious or spiritual path to go down. And to cut a very long story short, we were just sort of delivered various books and ideas and people that we met, and bit by bit we just ended up bumping into the Baha'is, and to the point in the end when we realised that the Baha'i principles and what Baha'u'llah had put forward were very much in line with what we thought anyway, and satisfied that craving that I had for these questions that I threw up 10 or 15 years previously. So I realised that this was probably it. And so we knocked on the doors of the Baha'is in the end, and there were one or two in town, and said, you know, can we come and see you? And can we join in? That was 1986, and we've been there ever since. If you go back to my song Winter Coat, I found me a coat, it was the perfect fit. That's exactly what it was. And even then, having got this coat and were sort of immediately infused by it and the philosophy, it's still taking a long time to get to the bottom of all the ideas. And indeed, none of us are perfect by a long chalk, and that's the whole point, is to keep moving forward to get some appreciation of what the wonderful teachings of the Bahá'i Faith is all about. And they are the same teachings, but with added sophistication, dare I say, of other religious groups. I learn a great deal from listening to Christians and Jews and Muslims, but I would then finally turn to Baha'u'llah's writings and Abdu'l-Baha and the Bab, and learn a great deal from them. And they're particularly relevant for today. So if I say any more, it's just to do with that the teachings of the Baha'i Faith are really relevant for the world we live in now. See, humanity has never, in its whole history, has never been in a position we're in now. This is from the Gleanings from the Writings of Baha'u'llah. Section number 4. This is the day in which God's most excellent favours have been poured out upon men, the day in which his most mighty grace hath been infused into all created things. It is incumbent upon all the peoples of the world to reconcile their differences, and with perfect unity and peace abide beneath the shadow of the tree of his care and loving kindness. We've advanced so much over the last 150, 200 years as man on earth. We've gained so much technologically and otherwise. We've never been in this position, and so we need a religious outlook which reflects that and also leans back on the basic principles of being good to one another and being treated as you would like to be treated yourself. And this is why the religions of the past didn't really address these issues. Jesus couldn't talk about world unity because the people he was addressing didn't know what the world was. They hadn't discovered the Americas. They got really no idea what, you know, the Far East was, or the South Pacific or South America. It wasn't relevant. It wasn't. There's no point of Jesus talking like that. It's almost as if we've moved up in class. So if I may say, Jesus was like a junior school teacher talking to humanity, and he could only say so much. We've now moved forward. Muhammad has come along and taught us other things as well, and now Baha'u'llah has brought us up to really sort of college level, and now we're learning a lot more about the unity of the human race and how we must learn to live together. Equality of men and women, anti-racism, science and religion with some sort of understanding, and all these issues are now very, very relevant today, and that's part of the reason that I understand that these issues are important for me to believe in Baha'u'llah's writings. But in the end, and I'll finish on this, it just comes down to a spiritual, heartfelt. It's not just to do with the head. I'm not just trying to convince myself or explain to you in my head what I intellectually feel about Baha'u'llah's writings. it goes to the heart. You straight away know from your heart that this is right. And what Baha'u'llah has to say is right. It's not so much blind faith, it's just that just seems the right thing. Just as Christians will certainly believe in Christ and Muslims will believe in Muhammad, yes, I understand that and I approve of that. What I'm saying is that I believe what Baha'u'llah had to write was very important and completely relevant for now. And it's belief that Baha'u'llah is the messenger of God for today that is important. Just one final word. Can I do a final word on top of a final word? This year is the 100th anniversary of the passing of Abdul Baha, who was Baha'u'llah's eldest son. And for him, and this is his picture by the way, he was the perfect example of what it was to be a Baha'i. So I will maybe introduce you to some of the stories behind Abdul Baha. He managed to travel, he came to Britain, he came to America, and the stories of what Abdul Baha did and said were quite remarkable and are a perfect example of what it is to be a Baha'i. Right, okay, I hope that's enough. That's all you're going to get for now. Okay, bye-bye, see you again soon.
I found me a coat, it was the perfect fit. It gave me shelter from the winter storm.